Hi everyone, Nancy here with this month's Cypress Grove Studio Calico kit and my process for making this layout. So to start out with, I chose this photo from a vacation to Coronado Beach. I really love that photo and I wanted to highlight it. So I'm starting out with this really cool 9 by 12 die cut sheet. It's sort of made out of a transparency material and it's a pretty silvery color, and I thought it would make a great base for a page. I use 9 by 12 albums all the time. I do Project Life in them and I do regular 9 by 12 layouts, so this will fit in perfectly. So first thing, I'm going to mark off on a white piece of cardstock all the squares so I can make sure that I have them all covered up. So I'm making myself basically a template. Now I went ahead and already chose 4 different patterns from the Cypress Grove kit, and they are a really nice stripe. There's like a gray pattern, which is a really tiny pattern, a really bold stripe, the blue pattern, which I like because some of the squares have a lot of white pattern showing through them, almost like a celestial look to them, and then some of them are mostly blue. And then we have this really nice light salmon pink. And here I'm just evening out the color, distributing color. I'm not using any sort of definitive pattern because I like it to have a little bit of an eclectic look. So they're going to be mixed up. I just don't want 2 of any same color being in the same row, let's say. Once I'm happy with the color distribution, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing down all of those squares right over the grid. That way I'm sure that all of those little windows are covered up. I could have also glued them down to the actual windows, but I find it easier to work this way. Next, just placing that nice transparency grid down. Evening out those stripes. That's always tricky. Once you get that transparency down, you'll be able to see if those stripes are straight or not. And then finding a great spot for the photo. So it looks almost framed out there by all 4 of the different patterns. And now next are the transparency labels. I loved how all of these are different shapes and sizes, or different widths. So I'm going to use all of them to tell a story about this vacation, the top 5 things that came to mind when I looked at this photo and I thought about Coronado Beach in California. And also another transparency in this alphabet and number set, which I loved. It has a really nice floral pattern that isn't too strong, but it's there to number out my list. So I went ahead and printed out some of the journaling on white cardstock, and I'll use the different transparency labels for a template and simply cut them out. That's really easy to do. And I like how some of them give me lots of space to write, so I wrote tons and tons, and some are just like the simplest little things. Now don't forget to take off that protective plastic piece. It does make a big difference. They're a lot clearer and easier to see through when you take that transparency plastic covering off. And there you go, just a little bit more trimming, and then we have a perfectly trimmed out journaling. And it's the same process for all of the labels, and I went ahead and did that. And I also attached the numbers to each one. Next, I have a few spots that are a little plain. If you look on the right hand side, that gray spot or that gray square looks like it needs a little something. So this is the perfect spot to add some of the craft white embossed die cuts that came in the kit. And I love this little flower, so we're going to use that flower and some stamping. Love that the stamping repeats the black and white that's found in the journaling. So we're going to use it in this square and sort of to underline that craft colored flower. So it adds some weight there, adds some text, it adds the color black, and balances out the design. There I'm just making sure that my words are straight. And there we go, everyday magic. And you can see how that just added that little pop right in that square. and finished it off. So I'm thinking I'm going to do something similar, and I'm going to test out whether you can stamp directly on the embossed craft die cuts, and you can. I used the white pigment ink that came in the kit, and there I am testing it out just to make sure it works, and it does. It's nice and bold and crisp, and it added a little bit of text to this flower as well. The only thing is that it does take a while to dry. What you don't see on the video is that I did hit it with a heat embossing gun just to make sure that it didn't smear. I'm going to tuck it right behind that photo just to give the photo a little bit more weight, and I want the eye to go to the photo. And then one of the last touches is some of these acrylic sparkly gold stars, and I'm just going to scatter them throughout, just like the numbers are scattered throughout, for a little movement and texture. And then off camera, I also had gone ahead and put the whole layout through my sewing machine to attach all the transparencies. That's the best way that I have found to attach the transparency, and it adds that nice little bit of texture, and I like the sewing. I like how it adds a nice handmade look. And that's it. It's a really simple layout. It's a nice grid with something eclectic and a little different going on. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for joining me.